to welcome you all to our first meeting of the year. And our guest speaker is going to be Ann Harding. But before we have Ann, and before I introduce her, we always start things off with asking if anybody's seen any interesting birds. Has anything blown in with this weather? Oh, roughly hawk, okay. Where'd you see it? At Hardy Bay, okay.
And can I make one note, is that we at the Forest Service have started a wildlife sighting board, and I had it kind of here, maybe we'll put it in the hallway so people can fill it out. But if you said something out loud today, it'd be great. And I also have a list of the past, what we've been filling out in the spring. And so people can take, what we do is we create a spreadsheet that's going to be living in perpetuity. So,
We hope.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to post it on the chamber website so people could click and see what's on the spreadsheet.
Great, good. And I see the Sandio cranes, which I noticed there were a lot going through yesterday.
Yeah, so Breslin covered outright.
So roughly-legged hawk about a week ago. Anybody, anything else they want to report? Yes, Paul? And where were you seeing those? In the backyard? Okay. Great. Rose finches, okay. Anything else? A sharpshin? Down the Eccles Lagoon area. There's been a lot of kittiwakes hanging out at the dock. I don't know if they're there now since all the storm came through, but they were, you could see bands on a lot of their legs, which meant they were coming from the Shoup Bay colony, most of them.
When was the study for the whiting population?
Oh, probably about a month ago.
Okay.
So it's off.
Okay, any others? Before I introduce Ann, I did want to mention that next month's speaker, and I think it'll be the third Tuesday of the month, is Alexandra Russo. She's with the Science Center, and she recently returned from about 8 months in Tanzania. And so she'll be showing slides and talking about the work she did for a conservation organization there. And she'll have some bird slides, but she's also going to talk a lot about elephants. That's a particular interest of hers, so that should be really good. So that's our meeting next month. And so now I'd like to introduce Ann Harding. She's our local seabird biologist, and she has worked over 20 years here in Alaska. She did her undergraduate work. She did all of her schooling in England, as you'll see from her accent too. And so she did an undergrad in Durham, her master's in Sheffield, or am I getting them backwards? And her PhD at University of Leeds. And she gave a talk last year on her work in Greenland on the Aucklands, and that was really fascinating. And now she's going to talk about a project that she did for the North Pacific Research Board. She was part of a team looking at many, many different things in the Bering Sea, but her particular project was at Bogoslof in the Aleutians, correct? So I'd like to introduce Dr. Ann Harding. So welcome, Ann.
And it was interesting for me looking at these photos. It was really, when you're in the field or you're doing something tough, maybe fishing, or you kind of, it's kind of tough. And I wanted to come off the island, and it was cold, and there was bad storms, and you get fed up with the 6 people you're spending all the time with. But I was looking at these pictures, and I just really made me sad. It was a really special time. It was a great team, and it was an amazing island. So it was a tiny island, so 0.7 square miles, but out of that area, it was about the size of Fred Meyer where you could actually walk. It was tiny. It was covered in animals, and which is wonderful. You got to know individual animals, and you saw action and death and birth all around you. But it was also stressful too, because anywhere you walk, you might disturb animals, so you can't relax. So just like the which is the Bering Sea Integrated Ecosystem Research Project. And it's a huge project. There's like 92 principal investigators. And we were under this big project. So there was a big umbrella. And the smaller project under 3 years on the 2 Bogoslof Islands and 1 year on Bogoslof Island. So I spent 2 years on the Bogoslof Island and 1 year on Bogoslof. And the big question we were looking at is why are first seal populations and seabirds increasing on Bogoslof and they've been decreasing or being stable on the 2 Bogoslof Islands. And so to do this we had, it was also a pretty big project. We had a 2-pronged approach. So there was people at sea in boats in transects, and they were recording what fish species were out there, distribution, density, and also where the different seabirds were in relation to fish. And then you had people on the 3 islands using exactly the same methods, and they were looking at breeding success, and seeing how well the birds and the terrestrials were breeding, looking at stress levels in the blood, diet, and then looking at how they were feeding. Okay, so this is the study system. This is the Aleutian chain coming out here. It's on Alaska, and then back. And then this is Bogoslof, and it's a tiny volcanic island that's just north of Unalaska. And then this is the continental shelf up here, so the middle of the Bering Sea, and the 2 Bogoslof Islands. And they're pretty close together, but they're at different distances to the edge of the continental shelf. And the continental shelf is called the green belt, and it's a highly protected area. Lots of upwelling, lots of zooplankton, and that encourages fish and the seabirds and the mammals to feed. So if you look at the 2 islands here, St. Paul is much further away from the continental shelf, and St. George is close. And then Bogoslof is in its super deep water, so they're really different. So in this talk, I'm just going to focus on Bogoslof, and I really want to talk more about just living on the island, because it's really intense, and life in the first day was great. And then we'll talk a little bit about research, and then there's a short movie that Brian, one of the team, made at 10 minutes, and that kind of gives you, it has the volume and the action, and that gives you a lot more insight into what it's like. And how long did you live on the island? 4 months. So I had 2 main jobs. I was in charge of the logistics and then also the bird work. And the logistics were challenging in that there was no resupplies, and there was a lot of technical work. We were doing a lot of loggers, so it all required a lot of power, and you couldn't get everything, otherwise the whole project wouldn't work. There was no water on the island, so we had to bring all our water in. So we calculated 1.5 gallons per person per day. And we had excellent logistics help. So this is the TECLA, the Shore Fish Environment Service in Homer. So in May, we put all our gear in Homer on the TECLA, and then we flew to ADAC like 6 weeks later and met the boat, and then filled up water, got on boat, and then it took like a day and a half from ADAC to the island. Fishing water. So we had an incredible day. You'll see on the video later on, but this beach is normally huge, so we really lucked out landing. So you're offloaded by the TECLA and incredible skiff divers, and you're left. So you have this huge pile of gear, and there's this one portion of the beach where you can land. The rest of it is seals. And at this time of the season, you can't disturb the fur seals, both legally, the Marine Mammal Act, but also if you disrupt their harems, the males will get really angry, and so they'll be, you'll have a male with his harem and a female with another harem. So if you do some of these females, this male here is going to come in and get them, so you just don't want to disturb them at all. So we had this one small area to offload, and it probably took us a day and a half to move all the stuff the length of the island to set up camp.
And how did you know that that was the spot to go to? Gathered it?
They have, so this is a long-term monitoring site for refuge. Yeah, they monitored it for years. And the other thing I did mention too, it's an active volcanic island, so it lasted up to 92. You probably all heard about Pasacochia up in 2008 and we only just got the people up in time. So that was a big concern here. So we had sulfur dioxide detectors and non-behavioral carrier and respirators, and so really that was kind of a big safety concern. So the best thing about the island is this main cabin here. So this is where we had our solar panels, and we had a single sideband independent communication. And this was our dry spot. So this had all the computers in it, all our communications. And then we put up a weatherboard, and that was like the kitchen and the living area. And this behind, this is the dome. This is the 92 dome. So it erodes really quickly, and it's covered in seabirds already. So each had their own tent. That was wonderful. Everyone had their own space, and they're really close together because that was the wind protected area. It gets huge winds. In some of the big storms we had, kelp blow right into camp. You're really exposed. I don't know if you can see, this is all tufted up in colony above the tents. Basic toilet. And then this is just basic camp life. So this is the shed, this is super dry. A lot of computer action. And then in the weather port, so this is a place for dry clothes to get dry, and there's condensation, we're cooking, keep it away from electronics. So it's kind of nice to have the different living areas. And it was an amazing team. We had a lot of fun together. They were really good friends. Chris, the guy on the left, she helped us move into the living room. So we didn't really collect much water because there's so many birds. You can't get rid of one. So we used salt water from that same beach where we landed, and that was washed it up. Anything else? Okay, just a few slides. So food was really important. We were working 12, 14-hour days, and we rotated, cooking, cleaning, washing up, and everyone was great cooks. So we had great meals every day. French friends and names at home. And it was also really important. There was this one beach where we could actually get some exercise. It was tiny, but we could do laps and exercise. And it was really important to move because it's been like, a lot of the times it's like the weather has been the last few days where you're just kind of cold and damp, and you're working in really awkward positions, and it's also quite stressful too. We kind of made a point of moving, so that was kind of daily exercises on the beach. And then the top side is one show that there's no privacy on the island with 6 people, but everyone bathed in the ocean with the seals, which is pretty amazing. And there was also ticks everywhere, so you put anything down on the ground, it was covered in ticks. So the guys especially found that quite challenging. So a lot of people put white paper around their sleeping bag at night so they could see the ticks were coming to the bed, and everyone did tick checks at night. But I think everyone's bitten at this place.
So is that something that is on fur seals and
More than birds.
birds? Okay.
Yeah, so you'll take a tufted puffin chick out of the burrow and it's probably got 30 ticks around its eyes and its feet.
So they're parasitic to the birds, or can they actually harm birds?
If there was that number, we didn't see any at first. I started thinking there was a huge number. They seem like they do a
20 is
good
not
job.
not a very large number.
No. And it seems like they do a good job of helping each other. Yeah. Yeah. And it was amazing too that sometimes they go on adult birds, and birds can die for like 100 meters, and you catch them there and they'll be exploded shit, and it could be with the pressure, but it will still be embedded in the nerves. So the big thing about working on first seal rookery is these big males, they don't budge. I mean, they're full of testosterone. They actually terrified me. I was the only one of the team that didn't want to work with me. So everywhere you go, you have to be careful in case of a first seal. And they even walk across the island in the deep grass. So even if you're walking to go to the quay or whatever, you could be stepping on a first seal. So this is, stopping on the way to the beach. You have to wait for the first seal to move. And then this is going to one of our study plots to work on birds, so everyone has a pole in case you do get close to one. So that's an overview for just other tabs looking down. Island up in, yeah. It's an amazing island.
And
And
those
this-
are all horned?
These are all tufted. There's a few more that might be tufted. And this is another volcanic area here. And this has like caves in it where actually birds live, which is pretty amazing having birds in caves. And then on really clear days, there wasn't many, but that's looking over Outnumbered Island. Behind that.
How high is that?
About it's high.
And this is, what month of the year?
We were there for June. So this is looking the other way back. This is one of the other volcanic domes. You can see our tents in that little hollow. And then to both sides of the island are covered in. And so the first hill, and the first hill across the island.
How long did it take to go from your tent to the common area?
Less than a few minutes, it's really close, yeah. Yeah, it's really close, it's kind of deceptive, but like to walk from this spot here to the camp, it's just 10 minutes. Yeah. So the first seals really do dominate the island, and that was exciting to me. I'm not used to being mammals. And they're really interesting. So the males everyone comes to the island in the spring, but the males don't leave until August. And so they come and they're huge, they have all these fat stores, and they basically fast for 2 or 3 months. And they're pumped full of testosterone, and they get hungry and hungry and hungry, and you can see them hungry. I mean, they're really, not good. And so you get these few really dominant beach masters, and then you get some ordinary males which are kind of around the edge, which don't really do much. This is all pups, not too young pups. There's one female there, little beach master. So the females are good.
Do they normally hydrate around the males?
Yeah, just because the females will congregate around the males, and not by choice, they're forced by the males to be together. That's a tail. They're incredibly like hands. And just to show a size, there was probably maybe 300 still sea lions on the beach. And so they're huge. So these are female sea lions.
Oh my god.
But the Stella sea lions, they're all buff and they're really clumsy, but they're not aggressive compared to the fur seals. Like we've seen, and there's some footage in the movie with a male fur seal taking on a Stella sea lion, and it's the fur seal that will win. Yeah. So they're bulky, the Stellas, but they're not. They don't have the same aggression. There's some female Stella sea lions with female fur seals. And this is a really classic. It seems like a lot of the older males, you can see just getting skinny, and they just kind of give up on the sidelines, and it was really fun. Like a lot of them had stones or cushions, and they just lay down. And the pups are super cute. It was really fun being there to see them get born. But they're also really tough too. Like you think they're really sweet, and then you don't see one, and you're about to step on one, and they're like total gremlins, like in their mouth, and they have these sharp teeth. So there's a beach master. And there's a fight between 2 males.
Wait, you're pretty close there.
There's a female, yeah. So there's 2 males fighting over a female.
And throwing a bee?
That's a female. There's a huge size difference.
Whoa.
So it's probably a female that wandered into another territory and the male went to go back. So it was fantastic when the pups started learning to swim at the end. We had a part of orcas, which was evident, and they were in the shallows all the time, hunting. So that was exciting to watch. And then we also saw maybe 15 entangled animals throughout the season, so a lot of it was fishing net, there was packing tape. So that was hard to see.
Did you remove the gear?
So tufted puffins, so this is just a quick overview of the bird life. So tufted puffins, we weren't studying them, but they kind of rule the island, and they're phenomenal birds.
We're not studying
No. And then two other auklets, so this is the parakeet auklet here, so they eat zooplankton, and then the horned parrot.
You weren't studying last one before?
So we were studying the black-legged kittiwake. So they, you probably all know it, but they breed in one nest, and they can lay 1 to 3 eggs. This is a pretty old chick. They start getting, you can probably see fledgling their same extent the other week. So that beautiful black stripe on their wing. So you're starting to get that black stripe. And you can see here there's a bird, it's got some yellow stripe here, and a logger, that's one of our study birds. This is a closely related, this is the red-legged kittiwake, and they have a really narrow distribution, so they're on the Bogoslof on Bogoslof. And it's got a much more domed head than the black-legged, much bigger eyes, they feed at night time almost exclusively. We weren't studying these birds either, but they're really interesting. And then the common murre, this bird here has got a capelin he's bringing in. So they bring in one fish held this way versus multiple fish held this way, like happens to. And they also nest in cliffs, but they only have one chick. And then this is the thick-billed murre, so this is our other study species. And they're chunkier than the common murre, you can see they're blacker. The common murre was more brown. They have this white stripe along here. And they're also much, I haven't worked with thick-bills for the oil project, they're much more easygoing and very commons are kind of all over the place, and these birds they're much kinder to work with. These are kind of funny pictures, but they're taken at night, and the murres, this is one of the things I find most exciting about them. So they have this great fledging thing going on. So the female leaves the chick when she's about 2 or 3 weeks old, and it's the dad that takes the chick to sleep. And the chick can't fly at this time at all, so it literally jumps off the cliff, the male follows it, and there's this great communication between the male and the chick. And it's really exciting, and there's some footage on video. But you know, they're calling between each other, and all the predators are gathering around. And, this was like a crash, where it was a long way from the bottom of the cliff to the ocean. So the males are escorting the chicks through all the seals to get to the water. It's really amazing. Okay, a bit more about the science. Remind you about our study system. So we've got the 3 colonies. And it's really important for seabirds, compared to a lot of other species, is that they have to return to their chicks at the colony in a fixed place. So they can only go a certain distance from their chicks to get food. And both the kittiwakes and the murres feed their chick maybe 3 or 4 times a day, and there's only so many daylight hours. So you really need good food availability within, a pretty narrow area of the island. So the work the seabird people were doing were focusing on thick-billed murre and the kittiwake. So the murres can dive super deep. So they can dive deep, but they also have wings that are really adapted to swimming underwater versus flying. So that's right on the edge of not being able to fly. They're kind of our northern equivalent of penguins. So it's really costly for them to fly. I mean, they're phenomenal underwater, but it takes a lot of energy for them to fly. So, they don't want to fly huge distances, also the cost, but they can access, great depths. So the kittiwake, it's much easier for them to fly, but they can only access, the top surface of the water. So we had collected diet samples, that's around with scat samples from the fur seals. And that's how a lot of the vegetation from kittiwake. So you can see there's some red in the samples, and that was deposit, more zooplankton. And this was also a new part for me. I don't really like technology, and we really relied on technology for this project. So historically, with this size seabirds, if you wanted to know where they're feeding, you do surveys out at sea, and you're looking at distribution, from a boat, and you say, okay, these murres are all feeding at the continental shelf plate, but you don't know where those murres are from, and you don't know what they're eating, you don't know how deep they're diving, and you don't know how costly it is for those birds to be there. But with the use of these new loggers, you can get a lot more information information, and they're just getting small enough, and it's a huge evolution in bird biology, the use of these loggers. So these are GPS loggers. On the kittiwake you put underneath the tail, and they're on tape, so if you can't catch the bird, they'll fall off. But the loggers cost about $1,000, so you'll do a lot to kind of get the logger back. And I think we got everyone over the one logger back. And then this is a logger taped onto the back of the nose. And then in addition to the GPS, so this tells you exactly, I think it was a recording, I think they're like 10 points every minute, so it gives you quite a good accuracy. It tracks the bird around the whole track. So in addition to their weather foraging, the MERS had this device on a band, time depth recorder, and that will give you the profile of actually where they're diving, give you overlay where they're going and what where they're diving. And you can collect diet samples from that bird, you get a lot of information.
So how much time were the sensors on the bird? I mean, are we talking about like for a week or a month?
So we were limited by size of the loggers, which means the battery size that's our limitations are only 24 hours of battery life.
Okay.
So we started catching after about 20 hours. I think the maximum time they wanted was about 3 days. So you deploy the logger, and then you spend hours and hours and hours on the cliff waiting for them to come back, because they only come back, they may be at the cliff for maybe 10 minutes, do their check, and then they're out of here again, so you can't miss them. So you try to have your loggers really close together, but anyway, we spent hours on the cliff waiting for these birds to come back. Lots of different ways of catching them. The guy crew and the girl crew. And then, but you can see the top of my head, this is how you catch them, and it's a long fishing pole, an extendable fiberglass pole with a noose at the end, and it has a knot in it so that you can't break the net too much. And it looks like it's super clumsy, but you can actually remove, I'm going for a kittiwake here, and you can actually take that kittiwake off, and the birds are so used to a lot of commotion around them that you can swing this bird up, and you should do it so no one else moves at all. And Alexis is there, so she's waiting for the bird to get swung up, and then she'll run and get the bird up.
How slippery is it is that like grass up there?
It's grass, and then it's also lichen, and yeah, it gets really slippery. Yeah, some places we had broken. There wasn't on the Privilofs, they do a lot of actually rappelling down. They didn't fully break them. So these are the results from the murder tracking. So this is the data I've been working with. And it looks like there's not many birds, but actually the tracks overlay on each other a lot. So a few things to look at. So the green tracks are the daytime tracks, and the red tracks are the nighttime tracks. And so this is kind of what I was saying, that the birds are constrained during the daytime. When they feed their chick, they have to go close to the colony. The birds, all three colonies, will go in close during the day. And then at nighttime, they'll make much longer trips. Bogoslof, it was interesting, they all fed in this super deep water. We were expecting them to go to the edge of the Aleutian chain, so there's high productivity, but they weren't. St. Paul, we kind of thought they keep on the continental shelf just because it's so energetically costly to get to the edge. And St. George were able to make the longer trip into the basin and on the shelf at night time. So also just some basic results. So we talked about St. George conducting longer trips at night. There was no difference in breeding success or chick feeding rates at all of the colonies, and that's not surprising because MERS have this amazing ability to work harder, spend longer time at the sea, and kind of safeguard their chick. And that's so, if you look circumpolar at MERS, they hardly ever have a breeding failure. They do really well. But that doesn't mean the food's not there. It just means that they're able to buffer their breeding success and the chick. So the Bogoslof birds spent much less time foraging, so they were hanging out at the island a lot more than the Privilofs birds, and they also had higher stress levels. And these stress levels have been shown to reduce survival. So that could be the force that's driving the increasing population count on Bogoslof and the decreasing one. So it really looks like the deep water around Bogoslof really does have a lot higher food availability than so the mers were eating squid and Bogoslof in the deep water. So that was the bird study. And at the same time, the first year people were doing their studies, and that they, the big animals, so they can have a much bigger device, exactly the same thing, but the two devices are in one. This is the iron box of the Flexmobile. And so they also want to do the same thing. They want to creep up to the animals without disturbing them. That's the view in and out from the box. And so you have one person guarding just in case one of the males can get inside the box. But you're basically trying to have as little disruption as possible, and you're doing exactly the same thing, using the female and bringing her inside the box. And then they have Velcro straps which they can fold her down and put the device on. And they can keep these devices on for much longer, even though they don't have a long battery life, so they have to run for a good month.
Only the female?
Only the females, yeah.
Did you take genetic samples and stuff too, or?
They took blood samples for genetics, they like coats and then dressing. Yeah. So the males aren't feeding, so there's only the females who get the poison. This is a short movie. These aren't my data. I've just been sent this, but they're pretty cool. So these are just female tracks. So the females were making 3-day length trips, and also like the Bogoslof seabirds, they were really close to the island. And they were only going 100 kilometers around the island, but the Pribilof seals are making trips 4 times that distance. So kind of a similar pattern. They're going much further for food. They all feed at night, and you can see. Yeah, I think Megan could say it. So that's Bogoslof here. And these are the fur seals going off and feeding. These are fronts in the water, the evolution chain. And the yellow halos are where they're spending longer time feeding. And it really looks like they're targeting these frontal areas. So, a lot of upwelling, a lot of concentrated food plankton. And they're feeding primarily on squid and then northern smooth tongue at night time. Is it a smell?
No, I mean, what is it?
It's a fish.
What is it?
That will similar.
Oh, is it kind of like a
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's, does anyone know?
Yeah, they're like smelt, we've got him, and sizzling and herring, they're all in the same, about the same time. The oil. How much daylight did you have, like, during?
Similar to here. Yes, it was really good to begin with, and towards the end of the season, which was actually really good because I didn't want to hide from them. Yeah. So, a huge team, really good people working on our team. Many thanks to them. And then there's a movie, and it does have some pretty graphic personal violence. It's warning no one who wants to see that kind of it.
Thank you.